This strange creature is a boy racer. Most commonly seen at night in supermarket car parks, these typically male creatures can be identified by their distinctive plumes. As youths, their lives are blissfully simple. Existing primarily on a diet of caffeinated liquids, they spend most of their adolescence fussing over their vehicles, meticulously decorating them in an effort to stand out. Although, whether this is to attract potential mates remains unclear, since it appears only to impress fellow males. Sadly though, boy racers, like the rest of us, have to grow up eventually, and that means trading the straight-piped lowered Fiesta in for something a little more practical.
The thing is, you can't go straight from a hot hatch into a VW ID4 or a Skoda Enyaq. It's too depressing. What you need if you're a recovering boy racer looking for a practical, sensible family car is one of these. Welcome to the Cupra Tavascan, and welcome to the Fully Charged Show.
We've teamed up with Duracell Energy to celebrate their brilliant ecosystem of home energy products and their platinum homeowner offer by giving away a Duracell bunny. To win, simply watch to the end and answer a question about Fully Charged.
Right, the first thing I want to say right at the top of this video is I'm fed up with this country, and if anyone is launching any automotive YouTube channels in the Caribbean anytime soon, giz a ring. The second thing I want to say is that however you feel about this car, whatever you think of the design and the way it drives, what we absolutely cannot deny is that Cupra has really made an effort. And that sounds a bit condescending, but I mean it and I really appreciate it, because we live in a world where basically every car brand is owned by one of 2 or 3 automotive supergroups, and there's a lot of part sharing, there's a lot of sameness, which makes it quite difficult for journalists like me to find new things to talk about. This, as a case in point, uses the same platform as the VW ID4, ID5, Skoda Enyaq, Ford Explorer, Ford Capri. And you may remember, I wasn't very nice about the Ford Capri because I felt it didn't make enough effort to differentiate itself from its stablemates. It didn't make enough effort to justify the outlandish claims that it was a sports car. This effort has been made. And that starts on the outside. I think it's a pretty smart design. It ain't gonna be mistaken for an ID4 in the car park, not with this aggressive, angular, pointy face and the blacked out fascia and the funky light signatures and the bronze bits. It's a swoopy SUV coupe thing, which is very much the car type of the moment for reasons that are completely unclear to me. Not my favorite type of vehicle, but a pretty good looking example of the genre. I do think it's especially smart from the front, I must say. 2 things I'm slightly less fond of. One is these drinks coasters they call wheels. This is the entry-level version of the car, so it gets little, I say little, 19-inch wheels, which look little on this car. All the others get 21s, which suit its design a lot better. The other thing I have to take issue with is the badge. Now, I don't know if you are especially up to date on European brake light regulations, but let me just catch you up. It recently became legal to illuminate your badge in Europe, and everyone's at it. And I think that it's diabolical. I think this was ruined before it was legal by boy racers, funnily enough, who would do this to their Mercedes A200Ds, along with removing sections of the exhaust pipe. So I kind of associate it with that. Then again, if that's the target audience, then maybe it's a clever bit of marketing. Now, the thing about making a practical SUV that's also an aggressive, sporty sports car is, well, those are kind of opposite ideas. So if you're Cupra, you sort of need to decide where between those 2 extremes to place this car. And what's clear to me is they've made the decision that this will be a good-looking and sort of sporty SUV that is not compromised in its practicality. And that's apparent from this. Look how much room I've got back here. Really, really impressive, as is the boot, which is enormous. What I would say is this, given that this is fundamentally the same as the VW and the Skoda underneath, could they not have just pushed it a bit further? Make it a bit more aggressive and angular, give it flared arches and a more aggressive stance, chop the roof, sacrifice some of that practicality in the name of making something really cool. Because after all, if people cared more about practicality, well, they'd get the VW, wouldn't they? Now, out on the road in the Cupra Tavascan, and there's more good news, because once again, there will be no mistaking this thing for a VW ID4 when you drive it. It feels distinctly different. to its MEB platform brethren. And most of that is down to the steering and the throttle, both of which are a lot sharper than they are in your Enyaqs and your ID4s. There's a directness to the steering. I think it's probably a quicker rack than on those other cars. And the throttle pedal, you barely need to breathe on it for this car to really get going. It feels so eager. Bit like the Mustang Mach-E GT that I drove, actually. It just feels like it's ready and raring to show you how fast it is anytime you even look at the throttle pedal. And if you put this thing into sport mode, all of that is dialed up even further, potentially slightly too much, actually. And it really does control its body weight well. This is a rancid wet day, and this is a bumpy, twisty B road, and I feel really confident hustling this thing along at a decent lick, and I'm quite enjoying doing so. That's the good news. Less good news, brake pedal, bit mushy. It's that annoying thing where you can really tell where the regen ends and the discs kick in. And it just doesn't feel very nice to use. It's not very tactile. I can't really tell how much pressure I'm applying, and as a result, I don't really want to use it. I'm just leaving it in regen mode and doing one pedal driving, which is fine, but not especially sporty. A bigger issue is the suspension, which is firm. It's firm. When we move along a bit more quickly, it's okay, but moving slowly, especially around town, speed bumps, potholes, it's on the firm side of firm. And that might make me sound like a hypocrite, because after all, a minute ago I was saying, oh, Cupra should have lent further into the sportiness. They should have sacrificed more comfort and practicality in the name of performance. But a good driver's car doesn't have to be bone-shakingly firm. Think of that little Alpine A290 we drove last year. That was a wonderfully playful thing, and that was really quite softly sprung. Admittedly, it also weighs some 3/4 of a ton less than this car. I suppose it's a slightly harder trick to pull off in a big whopping SUV. Now, I believe all higher trim level versions of this car get dynamic chassis control, trick suspension that you can adjust and fiddle with, which might help, but they also all come with 21-inch wheels, which I would imagine somewhat counteracts any additional comfort that the cleverer suspension gives you. It's a firm car. Although, that aside, really capable and quite enjoyable to drive quickly, and perfectly civilized, quiet and easy to drive slowly. By the way, I should mention, if you're interested in seeing what this car looks like in the sun, it will be on display at our upcoming Sydney live show. Moreover, if you are Australian and be interested in a sort of green card marriage type situation, giz a ring. Now, interior of the Cupra Tavascan, it's bonkers. It's bonkers. I don't know who the lead interior designer is at Cupra, but I know this. They were well into Power Rangers growing up. So choices have been made. I suppose I shouldn't complain because, again, I spend a lot of time moaning about samey part spin interiors. And again, that was my big gripe with the Capri. There was not much in there to set it apart from everything else on sale. There are things to set it apart. Look, we've got bronze bits. We've got sort of dragon scale effect in a purple hue. We've got this sort of halo piece, which of course doesn't need to be there. This isn't a structural component. It's just there to create that sense of sportiness and cocoon. I don't know if it's completely to my personal taste, but again, I really appreciate the fact that they've just tried some stuff. You know, it's a little bit different. These seats are very nice, very sporty. This being the entry-level car, I think this is the kind of cheaper seats material, but I really like it. It's a lovely texture. It won't get too hot on a summer's day. Not that that's an issue we are having on this particular day. It's also striking how much good kit comes on this base version of the car. I've got nice sporty aluminium pedals. You do want those in a sporty car. My Polestar 2, boring pedals, detracts from the sportiness. I've got a wireless charger, I've got a heated steering wheel, I've got funky LED headlights. It's well equipped and it's really well put together, which you'd expect from any VW Group brand. Speaking of VW Group, this car is, of course, plagued by some of the slightly annoying details that have plagued this kind of first generation of VW Group EVs. I'm not even going to say what they are, because you probably know by now. But I will say this to VW Group's credit. This thing is so much less annoying than, for example, an early ID3 was. They've slightly rearranged the setup of these haptic buttons on the wheel, so much better to use now. Still would prefer their proper buttons, but so much better to use. And likewise, the touchscreen. It's bigger, it's 1,000 times more responsive and just slightly better laid out than it was once upon a time. Good to see. They've listened to the feedback, they've acted on it. What'll be better to see is when they throw all of this out and introduce a completely new infotainment system, which may well happen later this year with the VW ID2. So, Cupra Tavascan, what do we think then? Well, do you know what? I'm going to say pleasantly surprised. I wasn't going into this car with super high expectations. I kind of just figured it would be another cookie cutter VW product. But again, that effort has been made and I really appreciate it. I think it's pretty good to look at for a crossover SUV. I enjoy the adventurousness with which they've gone about designing this interior. And I am quite impressed with how capable it feels on a greasy, wet British B road when you give it some. I will say it's not absolutely blown my socks off in terms of how thrilling and exciting it is to drive. And it is firm. That is my main gripe. But there's a lot to like here. I'd pitch it like this. If you're looking for a genuinely practical, sensible, useful family EV that's just a bit cooler than the rest, stands out a bit outside the school gates and has a little bit of performance to it, this is absolutely spot on for you. If you're looking for an electric family crossover that can genuinely blow your socks off as a driver's car, there is still only one of those, and for me it's the Ioniq 5N. Alternatively, have less children and get the Cupra Born, which is better to drive because it's smaller and lighter and lower to the ground. Or have no children and get an Alpine A290. Subscribe for more sensible family advice. And I just want to finish on a positive and just repeat the message I've been saying throughout this video, which is, isn't it nice to see brands within automotive supergroups making sure their products feel different? I think there's going to be a lot of culling in the next few years. I think your Stellantises, your VW groups are going to look at their portfolio and just think, we can't justify all of these. And I think some legacy brands that we've known and loved for a long time are going to vanish in the next few years. But if Cupra continues to be bold, and maybe even be bolder, they will ensure that they are one of the ones that lives on. And the last thing I'd say is that the whole Cupra ideology, cool, sporty, fun to drive, applying all that to a big family SUV is kind of like putting lipstick on a pig. It's not a natural marriage, and they've done a pretty good job of it, but it works better on smaller stuff, and that is why I am really excited to see the Cupra Raval, the little hot super mini, when that arrives later this year. That is one to watch out for. So there we go then, the Cupra Tavascan. Not an A star, but certainly an A for effort. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and if you have been, thank you for watching. Oh, puddle.
We're really excited to partner with Duracell Energy to showcase their amazing renewable energy solutions. If you want to reduce your energy bills and join the renewable energy transition, installing home battery storage and solar panels at home is a great way to start. Duracell Energy's ecosystem of products typically partners with solar panels, but they can be just as effective without it, particularly for electric vehicle owners or anyone looking to take control of their energy. And with Duracell Energy's Platinum Homeowner offer, viewers can get a custom service that pairs you with top quality products and the best installers in your area. Your installation also comes with a 20-point check, a 6-month performance review, system health checks at 3 and 10-year periods, and outstanding local UK customer support every step of the way. Plus, Duracell Energy's batteries, inverters and EV chargers work together on one easy-to-use app. With features like dynamic tariff integration and grid services, you'll be able to maximise your return. Ready to get started? You can get your quote today. And don't forget, we're also giving away a Duracell Energy Bunny in every episode. Just answer the question about fully charged by following the link in the description. Good luck!